Hello there, you good people. My gosh, where
Oh,
are we? Where
hi
on
there.
earth are we? Where in the world is Carmen Sandiego?
We're
Where is,
in Boston.
we are in Boston. Folks, thank you for joining us. This is 5 Minutes with Robert and Amy Acer, live from Boston, Texas. No, Boston, Florida. No, where is Boston? Yes, Boston, Massachusetts. The founding of the country place. The historic locations in Boston are just almost impossible to fathom. Thank you for joining us. This is our report from OCON. It is July 6th, 1957. Oh no, we'll get to 1957. July 6th, 2025. And we are live from OCON because it's the 40th anniversary. Look at this. The 40th anniversary. You see that steaming drink in that fine mug. What does it say on the back here? Look at this. Look at this. Yes, the world you desired can be won. It's real. It's possible. It's yours.
Oh, very nice.
Love that. We're at OCON, and I'm showing off swag. I'm showing off some of the things that were part of the package. If you came to OCON, if you did, we are going to call you out. We may call out a few people by name, although we'll be discreet and reasonable. Let me know in the chat if the audio was okay. I just forgot to put the microphone forward here. There we go. That'll be better.
Yes. Well, hello.
Hello, and thank you for joining us. Let me get my my remote version. Look at that, the show clock there. The remote version, which is now going to switch over to providing me your chat comments as soon as I bring it up there. So, I actually do have some show notes for today, but really everything just relates to what's going on at OCON. It is... Oh, wait, that's the public version. That's the version you all can see. I've got to get the one with the extra notes. Sorry about that. There we go. So, no, that's not it either. In any event, on this date, oh, there it is. Okay, good. Took a moment for my file to open. It is day 187 of the year, this July 6th, 2025. 178 days remaining, 172 days until Christmas. We're not even thinking about Halloween on this. Just kidding. Just kidding. 117 days until Halloween. And, on this date in 1957, remember I mentioned 1957? On this date in 1957, this is the day that John Lennon met Paul McCartney.
Oh, wow. Wow.
On July 6, 1957, two Liverpool music-minded teenagers, John Lennon and Paul McCartney, meet for the first time in a church auditorium. It's easy to assume that John and Paul would eventually have met on some other day had a mutual friend not chosen that hot and humid Saturday to make the introduction, but as much as they had in common, the two boys lived in different neighborhoods, went to different schools, and were nearly 2 years apart in age. It would have been tragic if Paul and John had never met, if the Beatles had never formed. And why does that come up for me? Because we're doing the report from OCON. Oh my gosh, one of my favorite parts of OCON was, actually it's kind of an OCON extracurricular. It wasn't officially part of OCON. We played music. Now,
Yeah,
Larry
we jammed
Green, if
out.
you are watching, Philip, if you are watching, Ian, if you are watching, if anybody is watching who was there in the music room during the extracurriculars, and not the talent show, they had a great talent show at OCON this year, but no, we got together twice and just jammed out. Rock and roll, karaoke, some classical music.
Oh,
Emmett,
yeah.
fine job.
There
All
was
sorts of good
some
things.
Irish folk music.
Yes.
Thank you, Ian.
There was more than one jig rather. I was going to say jib, but that gets to this afternoon. We'll hold that off for a moment. So yes, it's a good thing that John and Paul met because we also covered some Beatles tunes.
Yes.
And as you always do at an open jam. Played a little bit of Yesterday, a little bit of...
what was the other one? Here Comes the Sun.
Here Comes the Sun.
Yeah.
What was the one Larry played? A really nice job on piano. I'm having a hard time remembering all the things that we played.
Yeah, we also did karaoke.
There was karaoke.
So we had a small karaoke setup, but they had a PA there for us and a baby grand piano for us and a mix board, and everything was just amazing.
It was great. Huge shout out to David Azalea,
Yes.
Haleli Azalei's husband, who we mentioned before when she was doing great podcasts, and she's so awesome. But David, her husband, runs this amazing production company, and he's putting up you'll see in the videos these monster screens and mega sound and all the lights. And yet he also put a small PA system and a nice set of Yamaha powered monitors in this little tiny room where they were storing the piano, and they let us have it, and it was so cool. But I don't want to get too much into that because this is a report from OCON. You want to hear about the official things that happened. And so, real quick, on this date, John and Paul, it's also International Kissing Day. Now, we've celebrated Kissing Day before. I think National Kissing Day and International Kissing Day must be two different dates, and you would think one of them would be on February 14th. The reason I always bring it up when we get these special days is because kissing is not just for people in love, although, of course, for that. If you're not in love, or at least if you don't have a partner right now, kiss your parents. Kiss your friends, like they do in Europe. Kiss your pets.
Kiss your kitty, your cat.
Your bunny, if you
Your
have
bunny.
a rabbit. Oh, one more on this date. Happy 46th birthday to Kevin Hart.
Oh.
And, yeah, of course, you all know Kevin Hart as a great comedian and actor, Jumanji, etc. But when I think of Kevin Hart, I always recommend, and so I'm recommending it to you, his interview with Tim Ferriss. Because he released a book, a motivational book on positivity, and the interview is Kevin Hart, the unstoppable combination of positivity and relentless improvement.
Wow,
if I ever catch
tall
myself
order.
slacking or stagnating, just listen to this interview with Kevin Hart, Tim Ferriss doing the interview, and it will motivate you. It will make you want to do more, be more, do better, all of the things that a person could or should want to do. And that's it. As far as the news, we're not going to do any political news this week. We are in the home of politics of a better era.
Yes.
The birth of the nation. I don't want to talk about the current administration this week, so I'm not going to. But there are Texas floods. I'm not talking about the Stevie Ray Vaughan album that, of course, goes back to the early days of Galveston. But no, there are real Texas floods happening right now. A huge, our hearts go out to anybody suffering in Texas or dealing with it. Fortunately, we're getting Facebook alerts that all of our friends are safe, but
Yes.
yeah, tough stuff out there. Climate is what you expect, weather is what you get, and sorry you have to deal with all that out there, although I know our friends are doing it in style. Shameless self-promotion, what are we listening to this week? I got nothing except one of the fun things about going to OCON, the Ayn Rand Institute's Objectivist annual conference, is that we'll get people who will come up to us who we don't know and will say, oh yeah, I've seen your shows. I've seen you on the ARC UK. I've seen you on YouTube. I've seen your Sunday night show, 5 minutes.
We were getting a lot of that, and I'm like, who, me? Oh.
Yeah.
It was-
Well, and there were some surprising ones. Somebody came up to us and said, yeah, you guys did that show on the analytic-synthetic dichotomy.
we got that a few times, at least. Yeah.
So if you look at the show notes for this week, I've put in the link to that. The discussion of Leonard Peikoff's The Analytic-Synthetic Dichotomy that we did with James Valiant. The three of us discussed that essay.
Oh, James is in the chat on YouTube, and I just want to say there was a younger guy who came up to us, and he mistakenly thought Robert was you.
Are you James Valiant? Are you Jim Valiant? No. Why would you think I was Jim? Oh, because we've done some shows together and you mixed up who was who. I get it.
And he's like, well,
Who wrote Creating Christ?
Did you create?
Did you write Creating Christ? No. James
wish.
Valiant. Watch the video again, and you should know who James Valiant is, and he's not me. As generous a mistake as that is.
Was sweet. There were people. By the way, James, there were people wondering where you were, and they were hoping that you were there.
Yeah,
I'm just saying.
I think James Valiant knows he is missed whenever he is not present.
Yes.
But yes, your name did, and more than once. There were people who wished you were there.
We got to meet Michael Leibowitz.
Yeah, we got to meet Michael, and he's just a
just
really
like
nice
he
guy.
is.
He's
Nice
just
guy.
yeah.
His on-screen persona is the same as his normal life persona. He's a nice guy.
Yeah.
Nice guy.
And Michael has a complicated background, which some people have tried giving me grief for. Oh, you shouldn't say anything nice about that guy. Do you know what he did? Of course I know what he did. He's the first person to say what he did.
Yes.
He had a a unfortunate background.
Yeah.
And for those of you who may be watching, anybody who is a critic of the guy, Michael is the first person to say, look, I did bad stuff, and I don't expect anybody to just forgive me for that, to shrug it off. I'm not doing that. And if somebody is suspicious of me or just can't let that stuff go, Michael will tell you he totally understands it. Now, there are some people trolling him over this, and he's certainly going to give them a bit of a hard time. But for people who just say, no, he was a criminal and he was in jail for a long, long, long time because it was a serious crime, I just don't want to. He totally understands that. Just don't be a troll. Don't be a jerk. Don't make things worse. I'll leave it there. Meeting Michael was very cool. And that was part of the session that ARC UK did, speaking of my sessions, our sessions with James Valiant. And that was a good session. Of course, Rosie Ginsburg, the man behind ARC UK, was there. The producer, Daniel, was there running the show from behind the scenes, as he always does. I meant to show off the book. Maybe I should walk over there and get it. Anyway, there's a book called The Objectivist's Guide to the Galaxy.
Yes.
And we got to see the author, and we got a signed copy of his book. If you look that title up on Amazon, you'll find it. The Objectivist's Guide to the Galaxy. It's, of course,
Zoltan something, and
yes.
we called him Zol, and oh my gosh, there's so much to say. I was giving away these buttons, and one of the buttons said, "Existence exists, ask me how." And I gave that to him, and he really appreciated it.
Zol got the Existence Exists one. That makes sense, because the format of his book, it's not a direct parody of The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. It's actually, what he does is he answers 42, some of you will know what that means, 42 questions that people have in philosophy, and sort of relate to the idea of the universe. He starts in metaphysics, goes through all the branches, and an interesting book. You can find it on Amazon if you search for The Objectivist's Guide to the Galaxy. But that was part of the ARC UK event where we got to meet him. He did a little book signing. We met Megan Ribbons.
Yes!
Who I don't remember if we've met in person before, but we've met online so much.
Is she ever effervescent?
Oh, yeah,
she's so
a
sparkling.
sweetheart.
She's so wonderful. And we got to meet her daughter.
Her little tiny baby girl was there, except it's been years now, and she's like not a little girl.
She's nearly an adolescent.
Yes.
She's almost 20. No, I'm kidding.
Those of you young people who keep getting older, cut that out.
That was great. God, there's so many things that we did.
Oh, yeah, and we're not going to be able to cover it
all.
all. That's why I'm kind of putting them in categories. The ARC UK event that afternoon was a total winner.
Oh, my gosh.
Now,
that was super fun.
Yeah. So, yeah, Peikoff's analytic synthetic dichotomy. Again, we were even asked about that. That's why I put that in the show notes. If you never saw that episode, it is the most watched episode of that series that we did with James Valiant on Leonard Peikoff's lectures.
Yes.
Leonard Peikoff did lectures on the news and events of the day and ordinary things that ordinary people are into. And yet the most popular, watched, over 1,000 views version of analytic synthetic dichotomy. But it just goes to show that y'all, those of you who pay attention to what Amy and I and James Valiant have to say, you're smarter than the average bear, and that's a beautiful thing.
You're not an ordinary fella.
You're not an ordinary fellow. I wonder if anybody here remembers Dance Dance Revolution. They should. But since we're talking live from OCON 2025, the first video was released. In fact, it was posted live on YouTube. Now, some of you know when OCON holds an Objectivist conference, ARI, it's private. You come here and you get to watch great people give great talks and attend great events. But over the course of time, they will release many of the talks from OCON over the course of the following year. And they release them judiciously by whatever algorithm they choose. And often the first video to be posted will be the one that was posted this year, which is Tal Tsafani's video. Tal is the man behind the scenes at ARI, the man who runs everything. Is he the CEO and... Yeah, he's the COO. Euronymous is the chairman of the board. And his talk is available. So I posted a link to that in the show notes as well, live from OCON 2025, Spreading Objectivism, a vision for ARI's future with Tal Tsafani. And he talked a lot about they're building a new center, an Ayn Rand Center. No, not the Ayn Rand Center UK, an actual building, a center in Texas. And there was an uncomfortable question about that, but we'll leave that aside for a moment. They're making the beautiful building. In fact, they since they announced it, they've gotten a grant for an adjacent property, so they will have an Ayn Rand garden area above and beyond where they were going to put the building. It's going to be very cool. So that video is there. Tal also, we talked about a bunch of things. You'll watch the video and you'll hear them. And he mentioned toward the end, and I think maybe Yarman carried this theme over too, a lot of young people here. I know Tal talked about it because some of the talks were given by young objectivists. Now, they're not that young, but, you know, anybody under 40 or 50 years old who is an objectivist intellectual is a young objectivist. And he made the point that, you know, for those of us who are mature in objectivism, and people do eventually retire. You know, we got to see Tom Bowden, for example, a great objectivist, worked at ARI forever. He's retired now.
Oh, Tom is great.
And Tal said to the young people in the audience, at this point, it's up to you. It's basically like passing on the torch. And that's, he's saying that a little bit, you know, broadly and metaphorically, because part of the point is ARI Live, ARI University, the program's going on.
Can I jump in real quick?
Please.
That there was a theme this OCON. It started with Yaron Brook, and Yaron was basically he gave his Western Civilization talk. And Jennifer, if you know, it's very similar to the one that he did at Northwood, where we were at, and he really pressed the point that we no longer have allies politically, and that it's up to us.
Nice.
So the theme is it's up to us. At which point, at the end of Yaron's talk,
nice.
I got up and kind of made a statement, asked a question, whatever it was, but I basically said, it sounds like we all need to get together. Objectivists need to actually start community building and helping each other out, keeping in touch with each other, and communicate with each other more. And I forget exactly how I put it, but that was basically the gist of it. And and with Tal Stefani, yes, you know, they kept pressing the point that, you know,
it's your problem now. Nah, just kidding.
With ARI, you know, their mission, their goal is to, you know, basically have young people in universities, and that is still their mission and their goal. And that's oh, look at this. This is the week.
This is the week
here,
I just had.
In Robert's notebook. I don't have anything equivalent to this.
Unbelievable.
It's pretty amazing.
Outrageous.
Yeah.
So much. So now, I'm not going to cover all of this, but you're right. That was one of the themes. Is that you know, it's the future is in your hands. I'm just finally getting the Facebook version of the chat up. I had the YouTube one up, and John Paquette is saying, "Hi, John. That was an amazing." We'll mention that, but we'll probably go chronologically. So maybe in a bit. John Paquette, that was amazing. That was an outstanding afternoon with you and Chris out on the water. More in a minute. So Tal Stefani's talk is the first talk to be released from OCON 2025. It was actually done streamed live on YouTube, so you can watch that already if you want to get a feel for what attending a talk at OCON this year was like, whether you've been to OCONs before or not. And that's pretty damn cool. Jim Ashley, thank you for the vote, because I'm curious whether the minor key version of our opening theme or the major key version of our opening theme is preferable. And Jim Ashley says, I have to admit, though, that I like your former intro jam more.
Yeah.
And,
I do too, actually.
Yeah, so I'll have to switch back to that.
That's the minor key version, right?
Right,
yes.
The original one, yeah.
Yeah, the major key version was done, and I just don't feel like it doesn't have the same
gravity?
Oomph to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I get it. To be honest, one of the reasons I switched was because I've complained about other shows' themes music when it's in a minor key, and it always sounds kind of like a funeral dirge to me, or like it's trying to be really tough, like an action movie, but it's so not my thing.
I think the original song is actually
the original's better.
Yeah, I think it is. It has more power to it. Greg says that both Hell and Ben Bear's talks are both available online now. I think
really?
That's what you're saying.
I did not see a link to Ben Bear. I am glad that it is online, because one thing I wanted to say was all the talks were great. 3 of them stood out for me, even though I don't mean in any way to suggest the others were lesser. But, if I got to pick my favorites, obviously there's a contextual, some would say a subjective element to that.
Yeah.
We even use that as table talk for the closing reception.
Yes.
And my vote for the best talk, Ben Bear.
Ben Bear.
Ben Bear.
Brilliant Ben Bear.
America needs a Declaration of Independence from altruism. What? You don't want people to be nice? It was a great talk.
You don't want people to have loved ones?
Yeah, you want everybody to be mean to each other? No, it was great. And Ben Bear is a personal favorite of ours anyway. We like his style, we like his personality, but we also like his rigor. The way that he organizes a talk, the way he gets from the beginning to the end, he takes you along in a way that is effortless as a listener, and you can focus on the content. It seems really good.
He has charisma.
Yeah, he's got charisma. He's got style.
Yes.
He's the kind of guy you're like, wow, I'd like to hang out with that guy. Yeah, no, he's a genuine good egg.
Should we talk about where OCON's next?
I was saving that for the end.
Oh, okay. Because I think I just accidentally said something in the chat.
No, we can share it right now if you want.
Yes.
We're not going to go as long as usual tonight, so good God, is it already 20 minutes in? That's
weird. No, we're going to go as long as usual.
We can't go as long as usual.
Yeah,
We've got other things to do. Okay, we'll see. We'll see how it goes. We'll see how the chat goes. If everybody goes away because they're bored, then we won't go any longer.
Oh my gosh!
The next
Megan is in the chat.
I'll tell you what, OCON is very reasonably priced for what you get. And they throw a great conference, and you can tell they put a lot into it, so your money is well spent. But it is a week-long conference, and so for some of us who don't live near where OCON is, you've got to throw in a hotel room. And they're usually in a really nice hotel. In this case, we're in the West End in Boston, a very nice hotel, and it's not cheap. They got a conference rate, but even that's not cheap. And you've got to fly there if you're, 15 hours away like we were. You could have driven, but then you've got to park the car for $30 a day, etc. Point is, not to pick on OCON's pricing, but attending and the travel and everything, it ain't cheap. And we had thought, since we missed one for a schedule conflict, we thought, well, we could try going every other year. Okay, so we're going in 2025. Maybe we won't go in 2026. We could give it a... And then they announce, and they didn't even wait till the end like they usually do. They announce a day or two in, oh yeah, next year's OCON is going to be...
in New Orleans!
In New Orleans. I'm like, oh, okay, I guess we're going to OCON next year too.
I guess it's compulsory because New Orleans wants us there, and New Orleans gets what it wants.
Now, if the words New Orleans doesn't already make you go squee, come to OCON, or just come to New Orleans with us, and we'll show you why. Anyway, yeah, they announced it, and we're like, okay, we're there. In fact, Amy, you've already bought the tickets,
I already bought
right?
tickets,
You've already laid out, and the good thing about that, if you don't know, is that, it's pricey. It's $1,776. It's $1,776 to attend, but if you sign up in advance, in fact, if you sign up a year in advance, that first week after OCON, it's half off. It's only $888.
It's going up until I think Wednesday. Is the cutoff.
Yeah.
You can get half off until Wednesday.
So sign up early and you can get a half off. And, well, in our case, there's 2 of us, so it's still $1,776. But point is, it's New Orleans. We got to go. You should go. If New Orleans doesn't immediately make you think, I've got to go, come and we'll show you why you should be thinking you've got to go.
And this time it's not over the 4th of July. So in case you're wondering, it's basically the last week of June. And if you go, please come either early or stay later so that you can experience the city more thoroughly. It's a wonderful city. It will get under your skin. It will steal
people,
your soul.
The music,
in a good
the
way.
food, the history, everything about it is a delight. So, favorite talk again, and not to criticize any of the others, Ben Bear, America Needs a Declaration of Independence from Altruism. If it is online, you should watch it. If it's not yet, it will be eventually, and you should watch it then.
Fantastic.
The 2 talks that were real... There's so many good talks. The 2 talks that either hit you really hard or that you just jaw-dropper, oh my God, Well, Amy, you know which ones I would pick, right?
Yeah, I think so. The last on Saturday, yesterday's, right?
Yeah, the 2 morning talks.
Yes.
So for the young intellectuals, they did shorter talks, and they did them first thing in the morning, and they combined 2 or 3 people in one like hour and a half session. So they were shorter talks, but they were still, packed a punch. And the first talk, opening in the morning, those of you who know the Ayn Rand Center UK and when they were still doing topical shows and not just the Middle East, and this particular speaker is still on now occasionally, Nicholas Krusek, who's been working with the Ayn Rand Institute for a while now, did a talk on Friedrich Nietzsche and focused on the book Thus Spake Zarathustra, or Thus Spoke Zarathustra.
Zarathustra.
And I hope this one's going to be put online, and maybe I shouldn't give spoilers, but if it's not, you need to know. He comes out, and he doesn't get on stage yet, and they start playing Wagner's Thus Spake Zarathustra. Yeah, most of you know that is the theme from 2001, A Space Odyssey. The big grand... And halfway through this, and he's just playing the intro part there, and halfway through he starts climbing the stage, goes up the stairs, gets on the stage, slowly walks to the center of stage, and when the music finally hits the climax, da-da, arms up. It was great. It was so cool. Nicholas, if you're watching this, that was...
oh my God!
And then he delivers a great talk on Nietzsche the musician, and how Thus Spake Zarathustra reads like music. But he doesn't just say that. He reads passages that demonstrate it, except he's not reading. He did it all from memory. And
it's a dramatic reading that he gives, and several long actual verbatim quotations. And he memorizes all of this, and it's so good. It was seamless. It was so incredibly perfect. It was an achievement. It was like, the greatest gift you can give to somebody else is the sight of an achievement. That's what it was. And I almost fell out of my seat.
It was great. And not to go on too long because we have a lot to talk about, but
yeah.
Nicholas, if you're listening, well, all of you, if you see Nicholas Krusek's talk from OCON 2025 on Nietzsche and Thus Spoke Zarathustra, goes to YouTube, we'll recommend it at the time. When we see it, you should watch it. The other talk in that same session, the second speaker, remember I said they did the younger folks in pairs, Agustina Vergara Cid, who many of you know speaks on several topics, but especially on immigration. She did a talk on immigration. It was a great talk, but given what's going on in immigration, it was also hard to hear, she gave examples that are hard to see. It was not a Trump bashing episode or a talk. She talked about how what's happening right now didn't start with Trump, and the immigration policies have been in place for years, and she's talked about it for years. She did point out the ways in which the Trump administration is even worse than what was happening before, but it was not a Trump bashing session. She made the point that people who are here legally in the United States are still at enormous risk and have good reason to be afraid for their security. And that she was in exactly that position. She has valid work visas, she has green cards, she had all the reasons to be here, and she should be safe. But other people in that same situation have been rounded up and run through the ringer or thrown out of the country. And then she said, until 2 days ago. And then she showed a picture of herself. And before the talk, she draped American flag over the rostrum.
Podium, yeah.
The podium. And then she showed a picture and told us 2 days ago she became a citizen. She got her citizenship, and she showed us the photograph. And I'm like, oh my God, that's so good. And it still left you heartbroken for all the years that she didn't have that, and that anybody else out there who isn't yet a U.S. citizen is not safe. So, if you see Agustina Vergara Cid's talk from OCON, all the talks from OCON this year, 2025, are worth a listen. But those
yes.
3 were my tops. It's hard to pick, but I got to pick those 3.
You did not attend this one, but I attended Amish Dalja's. Basically,
I listened to it. remotely, and that was very good.
Oh, it was really good.
Because it was about inoculation.
And it was about
History of inoculation, and here in Boston.
Yeah, smallpox in Boston.
And if you know the difference of inoculation, in the old days, they would inoculate people the same way you vaccinate someone, but we didn't have vaccines. In other words, dead versions of the diseases. So they would take,
They basically a piece of skin and put it up somebody's nose. That's basically what that is.
Or a bit of
pustule.
Something from a diseased person, and a small amount, so it generally, if you did it properly, wouldn't make somebody really, really sick.
Yeah.
Kind of like a vaccination, but riskier.
Yes. It would get you sick. It would get children sick, but then they would survive through it.
Yeah. You even talked about one of the early heroes was a horrible person in every other way, Cotton Mather.
Yes. Yes.
Who was, one of the criminals of the Salem witch trial, which we're going out to Salem actually day after tomorrow.
Yes.
And we'll get to see, some of what Cotton Mather did. But, in a different respect, he was actually a hero of inoculations.
Yes.
So people are complicated.
Oh my gosh! So I just so much to talk about. I mean, we'll probably talk more about OCON next Sunday.
Oh my God! Jim Ashley corrected me. It was Richard Strauss who wrote *The Spake*, and not Richard Wagner. I shouldn't say Wagner. Wagner.
Wagner. Yes.
I would say Ricky Wagner because he was a mixed case and it had bad aspects of his moral and ethics. So I respect him by talking about his music, but I also hedge it by calling him Richard Wagner. Anyway, Richard Wagner was somebody that Nietzsche admired, but you're right, the opening music. Thank you for correcting me on that.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Where was I? Before Jim threw me off very generously.
And we've got to go through the comments because we're going to circle back anyway.
Okay. Well, we gave you the top 3.
Yeah.
We gave you New Orleans, which was coming up. I do have to say, of all the extracurriculars, and there were many, spending time on the Freedom Trail.
Yeah.
Just hang out with Steve Henderson. Some of you know Steve Henderson, one of our friends and Glow members, Great Lakes Objectivist members. I don't know, so many highlights, so many extracurriculars. Yeah. But we had an extracurricular today. We went out on a boat. We went in the Boston Harbor. If you're on Facebook, you saw my pictures of that. That's entirely owing to John Paquette and his friend Chris, and thank you for that. I just got to give an extra shout out because it was so cool. I still can't believe
we were on a boat.
We were on a boat.
And it was
with a guitar.
It was a sailboat.
Yeah, John said, do you have a ukulele you could bring? I said, I don't have a ukulele, but I've got a small guitar. Some of you know what a Baby Martin is, an LX1E. So I brought my guitar. I played, some classic rock, the kind of stuff we were playing with Larry Green and Philip and all the guys and gals.
And we were all singing on the boat.
And
at least the choruses.
Here Comes the Sun and rock and roll. And I said to the captain, I said to Chris, because I know Chris is a jazz musician, and I said, you should play a song because you play guitar. And I knew I was in trouble because I handed him the guitar and he reaches in his pocket for a pick. In other words, he didn't ask for my pick. He's the kind of guy who, he doesn't have a guitar with him, but he's always got a pick in his pocket. And so he starts playing Get Your Kicks on Route 66, but jazz style, like, all the jazz chords. It was very, very cool.
Yeah, John says, Jim Ashley, it was I who corrected you.
Oh, there were multiple corrections there?
Yes, about Strauss, yeah.
Strauss, yeah. I'm watching the Facebook comments because I know you're watching the YouTube ones.
Yeah,
I've got those in front of me too, but down here, and then it's harder to keep track on there. We don't have our usual, we're at the remote setup here. We don't have the usual 17 computers and stage lights and all that.
Oh yeah, Ian said, did you play Yacht Rock? No, we actually thought about that.
Amy, before we went out on the boat, said we should bring a Bluetooth speaker and play some Yacht Rock. So it's funny that you asked. Great minds think alike.
The thing is that if we were on a speedboat, I would most certainly play Jay Ferguson's Thunder Island.
Oh, God, yes.
But we were on a sailboat, and John was ordering us about. He was like what the...
He did. He let us run the rigging. He let us do things. It was very cool.
He was like...
Because we're not sailors. We don't do sailboats. But now we do.
John, oh my gosh, John, you are amazing. John knows all the nautical noddings.
I don't know if he put us to work just utilitarian, I gotta put these guys to work because there's work to do, or if he wanted us to feel included in it and to be useful.
Well, it's both.
But whether it was intentional or not, it had the desired positive effect.
I felt like a pirate. Well, I felt like a sailor.
On Facebook, Jim Ashley, by the way, talks about Michael Leibowitz and says, I have profound respect and admiration for him. I said, people are complicated, like Wagner, for example. And Andrew Ashdown says, people are complicated. I'm pretty simple, Robert. Yes, some of us are very simple. Those Ayn Randy types, they have a bunch of virtues and they just practice them. Where's the complicated parts? Where are the conflicts? Well, they're out there, actually.
They're out there.
They're out there. But yes, Andrew, being a man of good character, I'm sure you are pretty simple. Yes. So what else is going on in the chat here? I can take a look,
let's see
too.
Here. Okay, so we have, oh my gosh, yeah, sailing is definitely much more fun when you get help with the rigging. And, oh my gosh, so,
James Valiant says, John's right, but Fred knew Wagner, so understandable. I don't know what that means. Is there somebody named Fred in the chat, or is that a reference?
No, Fred.
I'm guessing that there's something clever there that I'm just not getting. Let me think about that.
Over our heads. But,
and John's making reference to being the corrector, including his trademark on the title.
It's TM.
And that's
trademark.
good. That's good.
Oh my gosh, yeah, Ian, these are the same photos in every room of the Westin.
Yes, these are, no, this is my new art. Speaking of art, the very first, we had meals and coffee and all sorts of good times with people.
Speaking of
shout
art.
out to Anna and shout out to everybody that we had a meal with, that we broke bread with, and Steve many times. But our very first breakfast there at the Bar 10 restaurant, and I think they call it that because everything on the menu costs 10 times what you expect. But we had breakfast with Linda Cordair.
Yes.
Of Quent Cordair Fine Arts, CORDAIR.com. And she even bought us breakfast.
That's
which means we really got to plug her
Oh
because
my gosh.
now we're paid shills
Well, I'll
for
tell
the
you
gallery.
what, I mean, she is so amazing. She was working OCON. Now, this was the first time that she was at OCON as just a participant. She did have an online auction at Cordair.com during OCON for OCON attendees. And in the midst of all of this, John Wass, he puts out this, he unveils this new painting that he did, basically of a cat sitting on a shelf with Ayn Rand books, and it's the most adorable thing. It's called, isn't it called like Doctor of Epistemology or something? Or
I think so, which
something like that.
Which is a reference to Ayn Rand called her own cat, Professor of Epistemology.
And they're going to be having prints. They're going to have giclées made from, so whoever's going to get the original painting, that's great. But there's going to be prints that but a little bit more affordable.
Yeah.
And yeah, that would be lovely to have.
Yeah.
If John Wass did a bunny with Ayn Rand books, I would buy it for sure. I'd get the original.
Yes.
But
and I don't have the link handy, but who won the talent show and poker I don't know who won poker.
It was a younger guy named Garrett that I didn't know. I don't know if he was younger, so somehow he did. However, Linda Cordair came in third, although she should have come in second for reasons. But Linda
Cordair actually entered. She was playing.
Oh, she was great.
Was great.
And she wasn't the kind of person who would just hold back or whatever like some people did. She kept playing. She kept playing through. I mean, it's great.
Oh, Linda's in the chat, and she does clarify that Ayn Rand's cat Frisco.
Yes.
The name was Frisco, which I knew, but did not say. So thank you for that.
Yes.
But his title was Professor of Epistemology.
Yes.
And John Wass has created a great work.
Yeah. So Linda Cordair
and he has
was
several
the highlight.
works where he includes Ayn Rand books in the background, or in this case, in the foreground. John's stuff is just delightful.
Oh, yeah.
And then Christmas time, of course, you have to get some of his glasswork, too.
Oh, and on top of that, Linda was giving out, little presents for people. Please tell us in the chat, Linda, what it was. There was a book, and it was called, and you gave it to me this morning.
Oh, do I have it in arm's reach here? I do not. It's in the stack over on the other side.
Oh, yeah. So anyway, it was really sweet. Thank you again. And she was.
And there.
It was really sweet. Thank you again. And she was.
And there.
It was really sweet. Thank you again. And she was.
And there. It
was really sweet. Thank you again. And she was. It was really sweet. Thank you again. And she was. It was really sweet. Thank you again. And she was.
Oh, of course, it was quite good. Clearly the Pleasure. Copies of Clearly the Pleasure by French Florida.
And there's a nice little book mark in it. And the Lennon was great.
Yes.
She was like the heroine on top of the mountain.
Yes. And by the way, those of you who are following French Florida, not the artist, but the, well, I guess he was an artist as a writer, but the writer, he is still working on Part 3 of Idolatry, and it is coming soon, but whenever that topic comes up, it's always, when the next part coming out? It is still in progress, so it will happen, and we are looking forward to that as well.
Yeah, and just so you know, we are on opposite sides of the couch as it were in our studio.
Andrew says, is anybody else getting a severe feedback loop? That means I need to figure out how to mute this. There you go. Sorry about that.
Oh, yeah.
I just realized I unplugged this to stop it from doing that, but it was unplugging it only stopped it for me, not for you. That was not very clever on my part.
Well, we're in a hotel room. It's very impromptu.
Yeah, as I say, we've got one computer set up here. Usually there are multiple computers, 3 computers, going when we do this show.
Thank you. Yes.
So that we don't screw up in that way. So thank you for mentioning that in the chat. That's another reason why we've always got to try to keep an eye on the chat.
We need an audio producer.
Yeah.
Let us know.
Yeah, that would help. We need Daniel here to
oh my gosh.
do all the hard work.
People are audio meltdown.
Yeah,
guys, dramatic a bit.
I should have been looking at the YouTube side. The people on Facebook were too polite. I've got total profanity going on YouTube. Sorry about that, guys. That was there you go.
We are back being the masters of clarity. Thank you.
Yeah. The big update about ARU for me, there are a couple updates. They're changing it from ARU to ARI Live. They're making it open to everybody in that if you choose to attend a class, you can do the homework or not do the homework. And if you do it, you will be graded, but you don't have to. Now, in the past, it used to be they separated auditors and students. No, now you can do this however you want to do it. Consume the content in whatever way works best for you. I thought that was kind of cool, and more changes are coming. But the big thing for me personally, this is great. They're going to be accredited. They're actually going to have a program, a Master of Arts program in Objectivist Studies. So there's the big news from the ARU side of ARI for those of you who might be wondering what was up with that.
Yep.
Yeah, and again, the Young Speakers series that they did was all tied into that as well. All tied into ARU, both people who were students and who are now teachers.
So I'm not sure when our audio went out, but we were talking about Linda Cordair and how wonderful she is and how she won the poker tournament in 3rd place. And
that was all well before that.
Oh, was it? Okay.
I mean, we can repeat it because she deserves that.
Yes. Anyway, so it was just it was thrilling to see her, and she was really, really good with everybody.
Yeah, and I don't want to sell short shrift to anybody that we had lunch or a meal with or sat down with or talked to.
Yes.
I mean, Anna from ARI is just too sweet, and she bought us a chocolate lava cake with ice cream, so too sweet. Literally.
Yes.
But
so
my gosh, everybody.
I mean, Enric was.
Enric is always great to talk to.
Yes.
Yeah, just another
Paula,
just good egg.
Paula
is a sweethart. See, if we start calling out names, we're going to leave people out. So please don't. If you don't hear us shout you out, it's just because
just go into the chat and just cuss at us and say, "What about me?"
No, just realize that we love you too. It's just too many names to cover it all.
Oh my gosh!
I know. Is it a half hour yet? Are we done?
It's been 45 minutes.
What else is going on in the chat?
All right.
We were suffering. Sorry about that, Bonnie. See, on the Facebook
Life.
side, everybody was so gracious.
The purpose of morality is to not suffer and die, but to enjoy yourself and live.
Well, we screwed that up for everybody. Sorry about that. Andrea's in the chat on the Facebook side. Andrea, it is good to hear from you. All the Ayn Rand people are like, who's Andrea? No, Andrea's not an ARI person. She's from high school, from my past. The past returns, and I'm glad you're having a good time in Florida. I need to go there soon because I have family there. Yes. What else is going on in our chat with these wonderful people? Eject.
That was when our audio was
Your
bad.
sound is effed. Yeah, I think we got past that part.
Yes, we got past that part. Yeah, we were talking at that time. You reached for the book, and it was talking about the Prophet Without Apology book.
So we did a scavenger hunt on the Freedom Trail and ran around in the Boston heat. And yet it was very cool because
it was actually a great day.
In addition to doing the scavenger hunt, they had 3 talks throughout the trail with little PA systems, and
we had to cheat a bit and take a couple of Ubers, but we got it done.
Wasn't cheating. There is no cheating in a scavenger hunt. Whatever it takes.
That's true.
I saw people using the internet on their cell phones. Is that cheating?
Oh.
No, there is no cheating.
Oh, and we went to the grave of Sam Adams and John Hancock and Paul Revere.
Yes.
At the Granary Cemetery, I think it's called.
Yeah, and those short talks were good too. Just out on the trail, short talk. You stop in George Washington's statue. Brandon Lacey gives a talk. Don Watkins gave a talk at Ben Franklin's statue.
Yes.
And Brad Foster gave a talk in front of the soldiers and something Heroes Monument.
Yeah.
It's a good talk, even though I can't remember the exact name of the monument.
Yes.
Freedom Trail. If you go to Boston, and you're like, what is the Freedom Trail? Is that like a trail? Like you do a hike? No, it's just a list of items that are more or less reachable in a series. Some of them aren't even in Boston Commons. They're outside in the city.
Yeah.
So, but they're all That's the thing about a city like Boston. You've got 300-year-old buildings, that predate the Revolution, next to a skyscraper.
In the sidewalk, there are actually bricks, like a line of bricks that will show you that you're on the Freedom Trail.
Yeah.
And little signs and things like that.
So the Freedom Trail is kind of abstract, but it's wonderful, and it's worth doing if you are in Boston. We even went on a duck boat.
Yeah, a duck boat.
Touristy thing that had nothing to do with OCON or even really much to do with Boston.
That was Tuesday, right?
It was the day we arrived, so Monday.
It's Monday.
Yeah.
And it was really fun. So we actually got to drive around Boston and then go into a canal and sail
You thought you were in a bus
Boston,
and now suddenly you're in a
boat. So we were on 2 boats.
What? How does that work? It's the amphibious vehicles that were fashioned after the same boats that were used for the arrival on Normandy.
Yes.
That could then travel on land. And they originally opened that operation with some of those original World War II amphibious vehicles, but nowadays they use replicas, which are more reliable and efficient, but are still awfully cool. So since we are running a little long, let me go through my list here just to make sure I didn't miss anything that you absolutely will want to hear about.
James said that Friedrich Nietzsche knew Richard Wagner. Yes, he did. I think that's who he was talking about when he said
we got to shout out Luke. Luke Travers.
Oh my
We've done it before, but every time he does it, it's a little bit better. We went to the Museum of Fine Art, Boston Museum, and Luke Travers gave us his not touching the art. What's the new name? Why does that escape me?
I don't know. Whatever it was.
Stories in Paint.
Stories in Paint, yes.
That's
his book.
It's his way of getting you to enjoy art more than you would have otherwise.
Yes.
And it sounds like I know how to enjoy art. I know what I like. I just walk through a museum. When I see something I like, I look at it for a while. And no, he gets you into, in fact, he helps you write your own stories about the pieces.
He brings out conceptual questions about the painting and gives you a chance to try to understand what's going on by the clues that you see in the painting, and then try to just relate it to your own life in some way. And it's always so touching, and of course I end up crying. You
actually get the stories, which you would never get just going to an art gallery. Luke's 3 rules, for example. What are the 3 rules? The 3 rules are: never look at the plaque. You know, the little plaque next to the painting that kind of gives away some of what it's about, even though often they're useless. And so the first rule is never look at the plaque. The second rule is never look at the plaque. And the third rule is never look at the plaque. Because he knows the first thing you want to do when you're like, I'm not sure what's going on here. Let me look at the name of the painting. And if you ever get a chance to do a tour of an art gallery with Luke Travers, the author of Stories in Paint and Touching the Art, do that thing. That was really, really good. Oh, they had fireworks, which we missed. We watched the fireworks on television.
Yes, it was great.
Actually,
no, we saw some fireworks outside
we saw them in
of
the
our
distance.
window.
Yeah, we're up
in
on the
distance,
15th
and
floor.
that was fine with me.
You know, I'm at an age where I've seen fireworks so many times that even if they're a little better every year, it's like watching, you know, you can watch a rerun only so many times. Although, speaking of reruns, one of the highlights for me was we did watch the film Chocolat in a room with, you know, 100 other kindred spirits. So if you've never seen the film Chocolat, and I'm surprised a few people who never have, add that to your must-see list. And if you leave the movie wondering, well, that was good, but I don't know, why does Robert love it so much? Why do Amy and Robert like cry even during the happy scenes of that movie?
You know, I got to meet a really charming lady named Megan, a different Megan this time, and oh my gosh, I heard her crying behind me, and I get some tissues, like a packet of tissues out of my purse, and I hand it to her, and she laughs and she's like, thank you so much. And we had a lovely long conversation after the movie, and it was so charming and magical. I can't even tell you. It was so nice. And oh yeah, we talked about how I'm pro crying. And we've talked about this on this show before. You know, you need to feel your emotions.
Yes. We have a whole series of things like that. And we did a whole episode on that.
Yes.
The name of which escapes me now, but those moments that choke you up, they give you frisson.
There were real quick during the talent show. There were the 2 sisters. I'm forgetting their names now. But they sang Stevie Wonder's "Don't You Worry About a Thing," which was covered by somebody else, and that was what they were doing.
They played it in that style, but it wasn't that much different than the original. It wasn't
much different, but it was so beautiful, and I was so happy to hear it. And they sang so beautifully that I went up to one of the sisters and I said, "You've given me a Patronus moment." And that references back to Harry Potter, the spell of dispelling the Dementors, and you have to think of something so beautifully grand and lovely and wonderful and happy. So those are Patronus memories for me. I have so many of those. I need to write them all down, and I'll tell you about them next week.
Absolutely. Yes, the Museum of Science. That was fun.
Yeah.
We had Enric on that one, and Dr. Megan, and Gracie was along, and Ella, and Daniel.
Yep.
Oh, I was asked about OCON's Got Talent. The answer is, I don't remember their names. I only remember, it was a dance couple. 2 dancers, husband and wife team.
Yes.
And I only remember the first name because he also gave a good presentation. He was a presenter as well. Robertas. Yeah, I think Roberta, it's like a female version of Robert, but there's an S at the end, so it's Robertas.
They did the bachata, which is kind of like Latin dirty dancing.
Yeah. Not my style, but they were so good
that it was very good.
You could still enjoy it, even if it wasn't your thing.
After they won, they made them do the song again.
Yeah, they did the entire dance routine.
I'm like, are you kidding me? Yep. Like, gosh, give them a break.
But they were happy to have won, so they were up for that.
Yes.
That was very cool, and sorry, I can't remember both of their names. Maybe somebody who was here will say it in the chat.
Yes.
But yeah, the talent show was great. Amy and I were not in the talent show this time. We just didn't really have anything lined up for this year, but it was great to watch. And again, we did have 2 music sessions beyond that with some great people. Including like Emmett gave a violin, whole recital of the piece. And anyway, we talked about that. Anything else we need to mention before we wrap this up?
Oh my gosh!
And again,
I will have more to tell you next week because this is not over. This is far from over. And yeah, I'll have to write all this down and give you my full report next week.
Yeah, and Greg wants a head count, which I don't have. I had heard 500, but
Yeah, around 500.
I don't know that for sure.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that kind of information is usually released. It was well attended.
Yeah. And, and next week also I'll be talking about New Orleans and how to beat the heat in it. We went there last year, and we actually had a great time, even though it was an oven out. And it's like 300 degrees.
Yeah, there were some people saying, New Orleans at the end of June, it's going to be too hot, I can't do that.
It's like, no,
I'm
you
thinking,
can.
end of June isn't that bad in New
not that
Orleans. Try going there in August like we did. And we made it work well. It wasn't that bad.
Yes.
So, I get it if it's, too much, but it shouldn't be. You should be there.
Yeah, Michael Leibowitz was only here for one day at the ARC UK event. He was not at OCON.
Right.
FYI.
Yeah. And there were a few people, and you could do this too. There were a few people who did the quirky things, which is they attended OCON, but they didn't stay at the big, fancy, expensive hotel. Now, some people lived locally or, drove in, even though it was an hour drive, and then drove back out or found an inexpensive place to stay locally. Some people didn't even attend OCON, but they came just to hang out with the people who were going to OCON. So there's a whole mix of things that you can do, and I have never seen anybody given any grief for that. ARI, OCON folks, organizers, have always been, assuming people are pleasant and, well-mannered and not taking away from the event at all. We met up with some folks who were not here to attend OCON, but they were here because of OCON. So the point is, whatever works for you, you can do that. You can make that work. Anything that I'm missing before we wrap up?
We're gonna have more content next week,
Yes,
but
we will.
I'll just say
We'll
this.
have more reflections.
I'll say this real quick as a theme. Another theme is it was more of a I don't know, compassionate. Is I don't know if that's the right word, or just people were so nice, so good, and so approachable, so friendly, and we had some lovely conversations, and we just had lovely experiences with people. I mean, that's the one thing about OCON is that, you can count, you can pretty much count on almost everybody there being good and competent and bright and friendly. It was good. So, and I think the Objectivist community is getting better. And by the way, I did actually put on the OCON official Facebook page that I would be giving out free hugs to kindred spirits, and I gave out a lot of hugs.
Even I got hugged, and not just by Amy.
There was one guy, Chris, he's like, gosh, I really want to give Robert a big bear hug. And I'm like, you do it. Just give him a little wiggle room. And
yeah, and then I met him, and he was like very respectful. And I said, were you supposed to give me a hug? He's this big guy. And I'm like,
yes.
Bring it on.
It's cool.
Bring it on. Ian, in regard to Chocolat, says it has Johnny Depp playing a pirate way before Jack Sparrow.
Oh, yeah.
And then he says, not really a pirate, which makes it's just funny because there is a line in the film Chocolat. But it's not that. It's when Anouk meets the Count Renaud and says, you're a count, like the Count of Monte Cristo? And the Count says, but he was not a real count. So you're right. Not a real pirate. It's funny that you made that, or that I made that connection. So thank you for that.
Yes, Christopher says, we never had to take it seriously, did we? Yes.
You got to do another episode on that.
And actually, that was one of my buttons that said that quote on it. And my buttons were a big hit. I only made like less than 50, and everybody was coming up to me afterwards saying, do you have any more buttons? Like, I don't.
You ran out of buttons. She brought 50 buttons to this thing. You think 50 people are going to want our cute little buttons? Because, a lot of people are more serious than that kind of... No, they just ran out of buttons.
Yeah.
They actually
Yeah.
gave them all out and had people asking after that. Maybe next time you got to bring 75 or 100 buttons.
But yeah, that it was a big theme. The whole community thing was a big theme, and like, how do we keep in touch? How do we get together? How do we help each other? How do we be helpful to each other? It was great.
Yeah, and I'm leaving stuff out, and I shouldn't, because I know some people are thinking, hey, what about the swing dance lesson? You didn't say anything about swing dancing. What about, you can't cover everything. Point is, if you ever wanted to go to OCON but you haven't, you should go. If you've gone in the past and thought, I don't know if it's really worth it, it is. And ARI should cut me a check for this. No, just kidding. This is entirely my own personal, arbitrary, selfish, I don't even know what the right adjectives are. Folks, that's it. That is our report from OCON 2025. We actually need to get running because we have another event coming up that's not OCON, but is OCON adjacent. I guess that's the word you use nowadays.
We got some objectivists we're going to be hanging with.
And so thank you. Thank you for a especially busy chat. And I especially appreciate all of your engagement. As always, the best part of the show is when you all are here and checking in and talking to us. And that's it. All that is left is for me to wish you all of the success that you so richly deserve. I know that, God, see, now I get to meet you all. Well, some of you here at OCON, and I was right. You absolutely do deserve all of the success. No, really, because people who don't deserve success don't sit through an hour of a show like this.
Right.
And
oh my goodness.
And that is why my other wish for you, I hope that we will see you at the next... Oh, wait. I meant to mention this. The Ayn Rand Center UK. Go to their page, aynrandcenter.co.uk.
Yes.
They're going to do a conference. Some of you have already heard this if you follow the ARC UK, but yeah, they're going to do a conference this fall, the Irreplaceable Spark Conference. Of course, you'll know that reference from Atlas Shrugged. So check it out. Get the information on that.
Yeah, that's October 25th and 26th.
Yes, on the West Coast in Southern California.
Orange County,
where
California.
It never rains in California. And
Rock.
Check it out. If you don't want to wait until New Orleans, you're like, oh, that sounds so much fun. I want to go to an Objectivist conference right away. Do that.
Yeah, we'll see about making it. Hopefully we can.
Yeah, we don't know for sure if we're going to be at that one. We missed Anaheim, and God, that's a long flight.
I know.
But whether we make it or not, you should be there, and if we make it, we will see you there. Until then, we wish you hugs. Oh, wait,
Many
it's kissing
hugs.
day. We wish you kisses. Oh, wait, what's the common denominator there? We wish you love.